Hello everyone, and welcome to All Saints Church in Washington Courthouse, Ohio. I'm showing you our physical context. This golf course was built in 1922, first opened in 1922. The church was built here on what used to be a pig farm on donated land in 1955, and the rectory is right next door. As we approach this church, you can see the rose window. The rose window comes from Good Shepherd Lutheran Church, and as we enter the church, we will walk directly under the rose window and over the foundation stone for St. Andrew's Episcopal Church. Here we have the history of both churches. St. Andrew's Episcopal Church was established in 1955. Right next to the greens, the golf course. St. Andrew's knew itself as the church on the green. Good Shepherd Lutheran Church started worshiping in a school in 1959 and moved to their own building in 1964. In 1988, they voted to be part of the newly formed Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. Over the years, both churches experienced declining and aging membership as the denominations became more liberal and the rural small town of Washington Courthouse became more conservative and evangelical. There are now more than 30 churches in the town and surrounding county, of which the vast majority fall under the American Evangelical umbrella. The others include 2 Roman Catholic congregations, a couple of United Methodist congregations, 2 Presbyterian churches, part of the PCUSA, and 1 Black Baptist church. Most of the churches here, All Saints included, have few, if any, people of color as members. All Saints is almost entirely composed of middle to upper class, white, cisgendered, straight members. About 10 years ago, Good Shepherd and St. Andrew's entered into a shared ministry agreement, sharing 1 female clergy member in a same-sex relationship between them. She was almost completely rejected by the other clergy in the area. This increased the isolation of the churches and further removed them from the shared knowledge of the local community. About 5 years ago, the churches started holding only 1 service on a Sunday, alternating between the buildings and liturgies. They put both church buildings up for sale with the intention of moving into whichever one didn't sell. Another church bought the Good Shepherd building. The 2 congregations moved to a blended liturgy under the name of All Saints Church, a Lutheran and Episcopal community, and just under 3 years ago, federated under that name. At the same time, they called their first pastor or priest as a federated congregation. They chose a priest from the Anglican Church of Canada, neatly bypassing the contentious issue of calling either an Episcopalian priest or a Lutheran pastor to this new ministry. Our first task as a new congregation with a new pastor-priest was to figure out what was next. I was now part of this context. The recent work of the congregation had been that of coming together. We had gotten a grant to work on a new youth program together with the Presbyterian Church, and we were just talking about starting a visioning process when COVID came. Adaptation had to happen fast. We started streaming our services with a laptop and a webcam. That from up here It was intrusive and didn't work very well, but it was here. When COVID hit and we had to shut down the youth program, we redirected the youth grant to improve our ability to be online with the help of the few youth connected to our church. The sound system was upgraded. A high-definition PZT camera was put in. You can see it up there on top of the balcony. It still needs to be permanently mounted. A lot of the physical, electrical, and planning work that went into creating the system and putting it in was done by me. There wasn't anybody else in the congregation who had the know-how to do it. Wi-Fi was extended through the church. We now have a Wi-Fi hotspot over there and another one in the hall. That Wi-Fi is available to anyone who wants to use it at any time, day or night. An Ethernet connection was strung all the way from the office at the opposite end of the building over to our sound booth. And if you notice up here, we have brand new lights. There used to be 2 giant chandeliers that hung down. They were low enough that when the cross was in procession, you had to lower the cross to go under them. They actually blocked the view from the balcony so that the back one had to be turned off if the choir was in the loft. Those came down and the new lighting was put in. These were all difficult changes for the congregation and met with some resistance. We struggled through COVID, trying our best to stay connected with mostly elderly parishioners, many of whom needed help with necessary technology. The congregation has recently completed a delayed visioning process, identifying the core values of love and acceptance, which are experienced through worship and wandering. All Saints, which came from 2 congregations who at their largest had about 100 congregants each on a Sunday, now averages just over 20 in person and about 10 online congregants every Sunday. This is All Saints Church, coming to you from Washington Courthouse, Ohio, the Episcopal Church, the Diocese of Southern Ohio, the Evangelical Lutheran Church, the Southern Ohio Synod. God bless.